What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Form Lab podcast. I am your host, Tristan Tanner, joined by my co-host, Matt Gibbons.
Hello,
Welcome, Mac.
everyone.
It's been
Thank
a
you.
it's been a couple weeks. You have a new microphone.
I
I
know
have the
big
same
things,
microphone. Uh,
less big things for you.
yes, less. I'm on the path. I'm gonna get there soon.
Yes.
We'll be good. We've got a pretty exciting show for you guys today. We've got an Aaron Gossage versus Jeremy Colling form breakdown on the forehand side. So all of the form breakdowns we've done so far have been all backhands. So I
Mhm.
think it's going to be kind of interesting to see kind of the similarities and differences in their two forehands, because both of them obviously have very good forehands, but I think
Right.
for completely different reasons.
Yeah,
Like,
totally. And I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this because you're mainly a forehand guy, right?
yeah, I would say I'm more evenly split, but traditionally over the course of my career, I've leaned on the forehand a lot,
Okay.
for sure. So I definitely have some opinions.
Gotcha. Well, I can't wait to hear them.
um, yeah, and we got a couple fan questions and probably some other topics that we're going to bring up as well. But we're going to jump right into the Aaron Gossage, Jeremy Colling form comparison first.
Let's do it.
So we got Goose here first. I'm just going to let it go and play out. One thing, so we mentioned that they have similarities in the quality of the forehand. They're both very good, top of the
Yeah.
world in forehands, but for very different reasons. And I think Aaron is more on the side of hammer the disc, like
Right.
hard, slight hyzer, flat-ish, maybe some anhyzer sometimes, but mostly more overstable discs, and he throws them hard.
Hmm.
Jerm is much more, I'm going to take my leopard and, or I
Yeah.
guess he's
Yeah.
MVP now. I'm going to take my crave or
Hmm.
flippy fairway and like throw this crazy inside out hyzer flip and like shape it the whole entire way. Um,
What's his new signature disc? I
Tempo.
tempo. There you go.
Yeah, which is like I think it suits him very well, or like it's his brand because
Yeah.
it's it's like shaped like a zone, so it's like a very like approach disc, usable forehand approach type thing, but it's
Hmm.
straighter, so it
Okay.
flies more like a I don't even know. It's the one I threw really is not much more stable than the Envy that I throw. So it's like
Gotcha.
that type of shape, but with the approach disc feel, which is probably pretty rare. I think
Yeah, that's a hard one to get. I myself recently got I had to find the right base plastic A5 to kind of get
yeah,
that for myself. And I mean it's a super useful disc to have in the bag and not
for
one you
sure.
find right out of the box very often.
No, yeah, brand new is like almost never, I'd say.
So a couple things interesting here. First off, I noticed the arm slots,
Yeah,
right? So for me, it looks like Germ starts very high arm slot
yeah,
compared to Aaron Gossage, but kind of dips down to that lower arm slot, which is
yep,
interesting because, as you said, Germ likes to throw the touchy or flippy stuff. And up until this point right here, where he starts dropping that arm, I would guess that he's like a chop over guy if I had no idea who he was.
yeah,
And then
yeah, and
versus
then
Gossage, who's low the whole time, likes to throw the super overstable stuff. I would guess that he's a flippy guy. So it's kind of interesting.
it's that is so funny because yeah, just the body position too.
Yeah,
Like Aaron is so much more like chest to floor type
right.
positioning, and Germ is like much more straight up, which is kind of interesting because I feel like they probably their arm slot corrects their body slot
Yeah,
a little bit because Germ is so high and tall with his chest. He has to drop the arm down to get the disc on any sort of usable plane.
right.
And then Aaron, exactly the opposite. He's so low that he has to bring the disc up and like almost do a chop over motion, but
Yeah,
he's bent over so much that it ends up being a hyzer or
yeah.
flat
A
shot.
a key difference that I see between these two guys is the amount of emphasis they're putting on the lower body.
Yep.
Um, Gossage is so heavily into his lower body. I mean, I love to see it. If you can watch his back leg and how
Yeah.
long
This.
he stays in it. Even before then, when like go to the load
Okay.
on Gossage.
You
Look at
saying like
he's
more here?
Yes, look how
He's.
long he stays loaded and how deep into that leg he is.
Yep.
And that's just gonna prime him to get so much lower body generation, whereas Germ is kind of this very floaty, like, smooth shuffle step, which is totally fine,
Yeah.
but he doesn't get super far into that the lower body, and, I mean, he throws very far forehands, probably because he's a giant.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah. It has 7 foot long arms. Definitely helps a little bit.
Yeah, and, obviously from playing Ultimate so long, if you watch his elbow coming through, he gets a lot of separation between elbow and wrist, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of that whipping motion that we always like to talk about. So
Yep.
I think that kind of compensates a little bit for power in terms of comparing him to Gossage and not getting as much lower body. He still gets plenty, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah,
yeah,
one of the main things you mentioned arm slot. I think it's super interesting. It's not something I teach at all on the forehand, but if we watch Germ, like how loose his wrist is. So
mhm,
even starting like this early, the disc is just an extension of his forearm.
yeah,
He's not like loading the wrist whatsoever to start with, and he holds this position pretty much all the way through. I mean, here he's going back and like the hand is almost going forward as the arm is going back. And then right as he's going to load, his elbow's going to load and then the disc like really goes forward. Like
yeah,
his wrist and his arm are going completely different directions when he's loading up here. And then he gets this like crazy lag, especially with the disc. Like
right,
the forearm or the wrist and hand relative to the forearm, he gets crazy lag. Whereas Goose definitely has the probably more traditional at this point forehand setup with the wrist, where
mhm,
he just like cocks the wrist back early and he kind of keeps it there the whole entire time. Like here, I mean, this is a very different position than
yeah.
Herm was.
Definitely. It's kind of interesting. We talked about this on one of our earlier episodes, and this is actually a tip that you gave that's helped me a lot with my forehand,
Okay.
which was keeping the shoulder internally rotated as you do your takeaway,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So you get more separation as you're coming through.
Yep.
And to touch on what you said about Germ, it's almost like he's doing the same thing with his wrist slot. I don't
Yeah.
know how much that's actually contributing to power,
Yep.
but it is an interesting point. He's almost getting 2 hinges of that extra separation.
Yeah, he totally is. And like it works for him so well that and I think it can work for a lot of people. Like the Joseph Phillips, he's the guy another
Yeah,
round just posts a
yeah,
ton of ace run videos. He has a nasty forehand. He doesn't throw it super far, but he like gets
right.
a ton of spin and a ton of shape on it. Uh, and he does this similar type motion. And so I don't know. I feel like to get a ton of power, it might not be the best thing, but I do think you can really get a ton of spin, and if you do it the right way, you can get that like super poppy, clean release that, makes it so you can throw any disc. Because I
Yeah,
would say the way Goose throws is so much more like arm dependent for the
mhm,
power that he maybe can't throw the flippy stuff as well.
right.
And maybe that's a nose angle thing because it would be kind of interesting to know the tech disc stats between these two players of spin and nose angle because I would assume Germ is probably slightly more nose up than
Yeah,
Goose is, and then obviously just with the hyzer release, Germ's able to shape some more shots out of it.
definitely. One thing I wanted to also point out is take note of Germ's shoulders here and how much he's turning away from the target. He's getting a decent amount here, but you see
Yep.
he opens them up pretty early and his upper body starts firing decently early. You'll even see his back leg kicks entirely off of the ground. before the disc is even released
Yep,
or at this
right there.
point. So he's weight transferring and opening up very early in his throw compared to Goose, who closes his shoulders off for a much longer amount of time and stays grounded fully
And
for
bigger shoulder turn too.
definitely. He's getting a lot more out of that upper body and just driving power.
Yep.
And looking at the lower body, he's still technically grounded, not really at that point, but he
If the ground was flat next to the tee pad, he would still be on the ground.
yes. But he stays like into that brace for so long on
Yeah.
his front leg versus Germ, who's kind of just letting his momentum go over the leg.
Yep.
It's kind of interesting. They're two, like you said, very different forehands, but obviously both very successful.
Yeah, I want to go to like the point right where the disc kind of comes out of their hand, I guess, which is about this frame. This is a crazy frame, by the way. Like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
disc is behind his hand, which is
right.
a little bit wild. I don't know if that's something that is even teachable, but
Yeah.
it is something that's happening for him. Let's see, Germ.
Some people just got the stuff. I would say that Aaron Gossage has the stuff.
Absolutely.
That's a traditional baseball scouting term is, your stuff. You can't teach stuff, but
Nope.
you know when someone's got it.
Yep. Yeah, so interestingly enough, disc is in front of his hand when it comes
Yeah.
out of his hand. But
Yeah.
this position here, just the level, like you were saying, the brace, Goose is so much farther behind his front foot than Germ is. Like Germ is definitely getting over it. Goose is obviously much lower. His also something that's interesting here is the how open the front foot is. Like
Yeah.
Germ almost looks like he's like pointed left of his target a
Right.
little bit, whereas Goose is the opposite. He's like pointed right of his
Closed
target,
off.
very closed off still. Um, and I think that just like goes to show like why their forehands are different and like just what they're going for in their forehand is because Goose is just going for full gas.
Yeah.
He has to be more closed off like this to create the speed, whereas Germ can, shape the disc a little bit more, get more distance, or almost probably close to as much distance as Goose can for like on course distance type stuff.
Right.
But obviously, Germ has a much flippier forehand. Maybe can't use
Yeah.
it as much in wind. But it's just interesting how they're optimized so differently.
Yeah. And then another point is on this frame, you can actually see whereas Germ was more open to begin with his shoulders, he's actually not as far back at this point with his shoulders, right? So Aaron is
Yeah.
getting more of a range of motion total than
Yep.
Germ is
Yeah, that's
in the
true.
shoulders. So in terms of pure power generation, I mean, I kind of have to give it to Aaron. Obviously,
Oh
Germ
yeah.
throws it a mile, but can you imagine how far Aaron Gossage would throw if he was also like 6'7"?
Oh my gosh. He would throw it. He would throw it as far as yeah. That would just be crazy.
Yeah,
I feel like
one of
that's getting into like do you know of Ryan Sheldon?
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
he like pops up on preserve coverage every once in a while, throws an
uh,
80-mile-an-hour forehand on
right,
course, like
right,
like most holes, really.
yeah,
I
yeah.
played with him one year, a few years ago at preserve, and he threw a monster, like the disc, a monster forehand,
But also a
farther than
monster
I threw
forehand.
a Ballista Pro full flex backhand at the time. It was like I just
Yeah,
smoked mine, and then he comes up on the tee next and just throws a monster hyzer flip past me. I was like,
yeah,
oh, that's a little bit different. I think that's what we'd get out of Goose if he
yeah.
was a big guy.
It's funny. My one of my good buddies, shout out to Josh Hollingsworth. He's a former D1 pitcher, but
Okay,
he throws like I think his highest he clocked was 97 on a forehand. Yeah,
what?
disgusting.
How is
Um,
that even possible?
I I don't
Because the
know. He
disc is
throws,
like
throws
the
really
disc
hard.
is heavier. It's what? It's like 40% heavier than a baseball. I think it is.
Maybe.
So
I think
that's
it's the fact that
nuts.
it's more aerodynamic, so it cuts through the wind a little better.
Yeah, it could be.
But yeah, he throws like 450 plus tomahawks and 550 forehands,
One
but
of
he's
those
out here.
builds.
Yeah, he throws Bowling Green D3s, which if you know anything
Okay.
about those, are just like the most disgustingly overstable run of
Super
D3s
beef.
ever.
Yep.
And they're like full flex discs for him, like they
See.
barely come out at the end, but he's throwing like X1s and all this other fun, super overstable stuff that's useless for most people.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Wow.
"Oh, it's not beefy enough for you." It's like, "All right, whatever, dude."
Yeah, those people we're gonna have to do. We have to do a forum comparison of like Jake Wolf and somebody at
Yeah.
some point because like he's similar in that way. Like just the pace, the power that he has on his forehand is just like a whole nother level. And then he doesn't clean release it that well, so he has to throw
Mhm.
some like extra overstable stuff. But he throws a felon 500 feet on a forehand.
Disgusting.
Like, oh my gosh.
We need to start a segment where people can submit their most underground, disgusting disc golf players, and we
Yes.
just blind review whatever they're doing.
Yes, the local 600-foot throwers that are
Yeah,
playing AM2 or whatever it is.
exactly. He
That
can't
would
he can't putt, but he can throw it far.
that'd be great. We definitely need to do that. Do you have anything else that you want to touch on with these
um,
two guys?
Not in particular on the form. I've just honestly been thinking about what hole Aaron is throwing because I want to know if he's throwing a hyzer.
He's throwing
I see
it's
11.
hole 11 at Brewster Ridge
Oh,
is
it's
what this
Brewster.
is. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Is
It
that the
looks
dead
like
straight hole? That's like 400 something
Yeah,
feet.
this is Brewster Ridge. No, that's the it's like an eagleable par four where people throw the big backhand flex and it gets like all the way down through all the trees. It's like
Yeah.
quite a bit downhill. I wonder what disc he's throwing here if I just see it.
Oh, okay. I do know this hole.
Yeah, so he's just going. I think this is a venom
This is
that
the
he's
one
throwing
with
to
that
go
that clip
stable.
of Matt just like
Yes,
Matty O just piercing it the
it
whole
was like
way.
shot of the
Yeah.
year last year or whatever it was.
Yeah,
And he
yeah.
went and Barsby did it a few times in his
Hmm.
world championship run.
Yeah.
Uh, just yeah, crazy shots. But yes, Goose is throwing
Okay.
a little hyzer on a forehand, pretty
That makes
overstable disc.
sense because I
Not
was like,
full gas either. Probably
yeah, because he's
70%.
normally like a flat to slight Annie kind of guy, I think.
Yeah,
Maybe a slight hyzer.
he likes the slight hyzer like pulled over to like flat
Right.
nose down, kind of like a lot of people do on their backhand, where they throw that
Yeah.
slight hyzer but then pull it up. He does that
Yeah.
on this forehand for sure.
I felt like he likes to stay around neutral, and it was really throwing me off how over his his
Yeah,
center of gravity he was. So I was like, this
yep,
has to be a hyzer.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. He's not throwing Anheuser out of that spot
No.
for sure. Um, okay, I think that's all for uh, that comparison.
Yeah.
So,
Really good one. If your
yeah,
forehand looks like either of those guys, you're doing pretty good.
you're doing exceptionally well, and if you have bits and pieces from both, even
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, yeah. For sure.
um, okay, so I had one thing that I wanted to bring up because
Okay.
a few weeks ago in Nashville, we had just like the craziest weather, and that course is a mud factory. Like, just
Yeah.
absolutely insane. Like, some of the holes that one of the holes, hole, I guess like 10 or 11, is just like you'll step in some spots in the fairway, and your whole entire shoe is under mud. It's just like, oh my gosh,
Oh,
this is terrible.
lovely.
Um, and so a lot of people were throwing standstills on this hole on their approaches just purely because of the mud. But I wanted to talk about a little bit like some strategies for trying to throw like your maybe not a full run up, but a run up with bad footing or bad like slippery conditions at least.
Oh
Like if you
man.
have anything that you change to try to make that a little bit easier, or if you just
Yeah.
give up, because that's a perfectly
Well,
fine answer too.
yeah, okay, are we talking about on the tee pad or on like grass and actual mud?
Is it different?
I think at a certain point, if you're just in a mud pit, you can't do much other than throw a standstill.
Okay, fair. So
Yeah.
let's go just slippery T.
Slippery tee pads, I really like to one, slow it down. I'm always going to slow it down. I'll disc up or disc to something flippier. To because I know I'm going to compensate for the less power that I'm going to generate by walking up slower.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna go slower first off, and I'm gonna really think about my weight shift, right? Because with you being on poor surface quality like that, you get in trouble when you have that poor weight shift, when you get that front foot a little too far in front, where
for
say if
sure.
you're on concrete, right, you get okay, you miss by like an inch, half an inch, whatever. Well, now you don't have enough friction, and there's enough surface friction to stop yourself. That's when you get slips and stuff. So it's really
Yeah,
important to make sure you're staying in control with your step out distance and your weight shift. And it's a lot easier to do that when you're going slow.
for sure.
I'm not a towel guy personally. I don't
Okay.
know if you are. I've never once put a towel down on the D-pad.
Yeah, sometimes it has
um,
been bad enough where I have, or one time I got offered. Johnny McRae is like legend for his towel because he doesn't care. He just brings a full beach towel for throwing on tee pads. Like
yeah,
he'll have his whole entire run up on a towel, damn near. And there was one
that's kind
time
of crazy.
a while ago where he threw a shot and then he was like, "You want me to just leave it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll throw off it." But it's rare
How
that I
was
bring
it?
my own. It was great. Oh my gosh, it was
Oh,
awesome. Um, and this actually
see
just
that?
reminded me of an absolute hack that I have to bring up. But
Okay.
go back
Uh,
on your what you were saying about
well,
weight
hold on.
shift and
I want to say I feel like that should be borderline illegal, right? Because then what stops me from like carrying a like rolled up piece of turf
we've talked
and
about
just
this.
every hole rolling
Nothing.
it out on the D-pad?
On the
That's
tee, you're
crazy.
good. Like I think you could legitimately roll out a whole entire piece of turf. You could roll out a whole entire piece of
Huh.
turf and have your caddy hold the back. You could pin it down. Like I think you could like actually put stakes in the ground
Whoa.
and be
This
totally
is
fine,
this is enlightening. We
which
need
would
all right.
be wild.
Zuka or Ridge Roller or someone needs to put a sidecar attachment so that you can just put turf or something in there.
Oh my gosh. Imagine like Ricky who already carries like the biggest cart
Yeah, yeah.
ever and then have a sidecar with turf on the side right next to it. That'd be hilarious.
Yeah, that's um yeah, that just threw okay, anyway. So stay
Back to
stay slow, stay
actual things. Yes.
right. Stay slow, stay in control. If it's really bad, worst case, just throw a standstill.
Yeah.
um, and then if it's even worse than that, then maybe you give up. Just give it
Yeah.
your best shot. I have personally found that I actually slip more when I think about it, and you just kind of have to send it.
Yeah. It's true.
Like,
Yeah, that's actually a really good strategy of just like I'm totally fine with like eating it off the front of this tee.
yeah,
But
if I fall, I fall.
because sometimes you actually can get your throw off before the slip truly affects it.
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
if you're throwing fast enough, the disc is going to be out of your hand. Like you're
Yeah.
totally good. With the weight shift and like the lower body piece of it, I'm curious, like, are you trying to take your lower body out of it entirely and just kind of throw with your upper body? I know you said you like disc up or throw flippier.
Hmm.
Um, but something I try to do if the tees are bad enough is I feel like I'm using less lower body and really just focusing on that core
Hmm.
rotation to try to get the pace.
Interesting. Yeah. I feel like I'd probably go more upper body on like really bad stuff, but
Yeah,
in general, I still try to keep my lower body because
for
it's
sure.
obviously important for timing and whatnot.
Yeah. And
I'm
that's probably just the
certainly not getting as
feel.
much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's probably just the feel. Like, there's no way that I'm like completely not using my lower body at all. Like,
Yeah.
that's just not
It's
possible.
it's definitely
Uh,
just a swing thought, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. But that's my feeling.
Yeah.
Um, Okay, so my absolute hack for
Let's hear it.
so absolute hack for throwing on terrible tees was created at Idlewild a couple years, and some people
Okay.
watching have probably seen it on Aaron's channel or some other channels. But we were playing at Idlewild and super muddy. One of the tees was just terrible. It was hole 10's tee, always awful. And
Hmm.
Aaron takes his shoe off, puts his bare foot back in his shoe, and puts his sock over the shoe on both feet
Whoa.
because he
Whoa.
doesn't just have an issue of planting at the front of the tee and slipping.
Yeah.
He pushes off so hard to start his run up that he needs it on the left foot too to create
That's
the
crazy.
push off. So he just put his socks over his shoes so he has the full grip all the way through the tee. And so it started this little trend at Idlewild. I've seen quite a
Yeah.
few people do it, and I've done it too. Is like I'll just bring a pair of extra big socks and just
Okay.
tuck them in my bag and purely just throw them on for the tee pad, throw the shot, take them
Yeah.
off, play the round, and if there's another tee that needs it, then I'll throw the socks on over. But it's like you could be on the slickest pad
Huh.
on the planet, like could be dead flat, no grooves, moss, and you put a sock on, super grippy. Like I have no idea how it
Interesting.
works. I've heard people use it. Like people do it in rivers. They'll take
Yeah.
their shoes off and just walk with the socks on because they'll get some better grip on the rocks. Which is like
Interesting.
kind of what's going on with a wet tee. Is it's like a some wet tees are like almost that like mossy,
Yeah.
gross, like rock
So
feel.
so let me ask, why the sock over the shoe and not just take the shoes off?
Well, one, you're not allowed to throw without shoes on in a tournament by
Okay.
PDGA rule, or
Fair
else
point.
I think that would probably be it.
What constitutes a shoe though? Does a
Good point.
sock
I think
constitute
a
a shoe?
closed-toed shoe is, I think, the rule. So you could
Hmm.
maybe finagle that a little
Yeah.
bit if you really wanted to. You could sweet talk somebody, um, but also like I mean, some of the tees there are like a rough surface, and so I mean I've blown through plenty of socks, like one
Right.
or two throws, and the whole entire sock is completely torn up. So I don't
Yeah.
know if it would be like the most enjoyable thing. And then you'd still have to carry the extra pair of socks because you're
Yeah.
not putting your wet, dirty, chewed up sock right back in your shoe to walk
Yeah.
down the fairway. That would be a little psychotic. I mean, people probably do it.
Wait, hold on. Okay, so Aaron, you said Aaron took his shoes off, put his socks that were on his feet over his shoes.
Yes. Yeah.
So he
Well,
was he was sockless for the rest of the
Aaron's
round?
another. Yeah, he's the different. Yes, he was sockless. He did not put his socks back on. Yeah, that would be wild if he took
Mad.
his socks
He
off,
took it.
bare feet in the shoe, socks over the shoe, mud all over the socks, then put the socks back on, back in the shoe. That would be nuts. I would not put it past him.
That
Shout
has to
out Aaron,
constitute
but
disqualification for something.
there's
That's
got
a
to be a
courtesy violation on me.
PDGA rule against that very specific situation.
Yeah. Well, I'm just throwing out ideas for any company. T-box socks, make some oversized friction
Yeah.
socks. Sell
That's
them to
what I
tour
used to
guys.
use. That's so funny. I used to use because T-Box sent me some socks, and I was like, "These things are gigantic. These are perfect. They go over my shoe
There you
absolutely
go.
amazingly." So I just used T-Box socks. Shout out T-Box.
Perfect.
Yeah. So if you need a hack for throwing on terrible tees, just put a sock over your shoe. Makes it way
I
easier.
I can't say I would have ever thought of that. So I if it's really bad, I might
Me
try
neither.
it next time.
You should. It really does work. I mean, like actual total usable hack.
You just when you do that, you absolutely cannot shank the first shot
No,
because
no, no,
your
no.
card is gonna
Yeah,
look at
yeah,
you like you're the dumbest person on the planet.
yeah. You gotta park it. You have to
Yeah,
throw it perfect, or else it's gonna be really embarrassing.
yeah. Talk about added
Um,
pressure.
yeah, yeah. Instant added pressure might be a good thing. Make
Right,
you feel like
true.
you're playing for the win.
Yeah.
Um, did you have something else you wanted to bring up today? Do you have a topic? Because that was
I
mine.
did.
And
I have
I don't want to take away your glory. This is your
Well, that's
thing
okay.
to bring
No, no,
up
no.
random stuff.
Absolutely. I'm here for it. Um, okay. I had a couple questions. I'm gonna pick just one. We'll save one for another week.
Okay.
But my question to you, and we could even roll this into like a social media challenge or something
Mm,
potentially. It is, what are the percentages in each main category that you have to hit to be quote unquote pro caliber? Right. So I'm thinking
okay.
backhand distance, forehand distance, putting percentage, C1, C2, you know, whatever for a challenge, that would probably be all you need. Right. But
Okay.
then you can get into like fairways hit, whatever.
Probably greens in regulation.
Yeah.
Pretty important. Um. Okay.
So let's
Interesting.
start backhand. What is the minimum backhand distance you need, you
For
think?
to be like pro tour player, we're saying,
To be pro caliber, yes.
but pro tour, not like
Yes, yes,
local
yes.
pro.
Not
Pro tour.
not
Okay.
not the pro designation.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Because I was gonna say zero.
300.
Zero,
Yeah.
zero,
Yeah.
and you can be qualified as a pro as long as you pay your $75.
True.
Um, but no, for pro tour, I'd say, you know, it might not even have to be 450.
Yeah.
Honestly, like it's probably in the 425 to 450 range that you'd have to be able to throw. Do I think you're gonna win? No.
Yeah.
But if you throw accurately that far, like that's what Yuli throws. Like
Hmm.
Yuli throws 425, 450. Like
Right.
that's what he's got. But he has it accurately and he putts well. And
Barsby
so
as well.
yeah, yeah, Barsby's very similar. And so those guys definitely can compete. I mean, Yuli can finish in the top 20 like pretty
Yeah.
consistently, but he'll never win
And
it. I don't think he'll ever win a tournament with that. But
yeah.
that competes.
Well, Yuli also makes up for it on the putting green because he's disgusting at putting in the last couple of years,
Oh my
apparently.
gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was because I like split houses with him a couple years ago, and we like I forget how many tournaments in we like just finished the Europe stretch. We were back and we were playing. We were at Idlewild maybe or something like that. He's like, guys, I haven't missed a circle one putt in 19 rounds. I was like,
That's crazy.
holy crap, dude! Like
Yeah,
that's
didn't he
wild.
go on like 180 something streak?
Yeah, yeah, something like that.
Insane.
Yeah, and the one he missed to end that streak was like it was a 33-footer. Like
Right.
it was like toe on the line, and then he made like another 50 in a row after
Yeah.
that.
Disgusting.
Yeah, so nuts. Do you agree with the 425 to 450 though?
Yes, but I think 450 is the number that I land at because I think when you have 425, you have to make up for it somewhere else.
Fair.
I think 450 you can at least manage the
Yeah.
holes.
Yep.
Um
Yeah,
yeah,
because 425, you're also start if that's like your max, you're starting to run into like shot shape
right.
issues, where like there are just some holes where you have to be able to throw 380 on a hyzer to be able to play it,
Right. Right.
which you'd definitely be limited if you're only throwing 425.
100%. Okay, so 450 backhand. Do we think it's
Yep.
different forehand? Now, it probably depends on if you're a lefty or a righty.
Yeah. I'd say the forehand necessary is zero.
Okay.
To be completely honest, like
So, oh, interesting.
and this kind of course dependent because there are, like if you have to scramble, maybe we bring that up to like 150 feet. But
Yeah.
if it's an open course where you're either inbounds or out of bounds,
Hmm.
I think you do not need a forehand at
Right.
all. Like there's guys clearly proving that, like Isaac and Ezra,
I
James
mean,
Conrad.
James Conrad's one of the few people with the world's and a USDGC title.
Yeah, totally.
And
And
USDGC is a forehand course.
absolutely a forehand course. Like he's thrown mid-range turnovers for all the same holes,
Yeah.
which is wild. So no, I mean I think the backhand has a high enough skill cap and
Yeah.
shot shape cap that you can just kind of if you're just nasty, like you can totally make that work at
Okay.
425, 450. Like
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you don't need to throw 500 feet and be shaping all this stuff. Like you can throw it pretty short
That's
tour
true.
wise.
Let's say it this way. What do you think is the average tour distance forehand for guys that throw forehands? So like exclude James Conrad, Ezra, Isaac Robinson. They have them, but they don't really throw them that much.
Yeah, like yeah. Without outliers, probably. Oh man, I mean we're close to 400. Like
Yeah.
I think
I was thinking
tour
like
wise.
380 to 4.
Yeah, something like that, which is crazy because when I went on tour, like I was probably top three distance,
Yeah,
forehand
yeah.
distance, and like now everybody, like you'll just play everybody that you play with. You could be in 90th place and everybody throws forehands that far.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah. It's a tough world out there.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, it is.
Okay,
um,
so I think 380 feels good.
yeah,
If you,
okay,
380 is like you can figure it out.
for sure. So 450 on the backhand, 380 on the
380.
forehand.
All right, let's go circle one putting.
Oh, and it because I guess this is. Oh man,
Circle one X.
circle
To
one
be
X.
to be to be
Yeah,
clear, not the tap ins.
let's go. I mean, I think you got to be above 80%
I
probably.
I was also at 80.
Like,
You got to be 80.
probably we got to be above there to be competitive these days, especially with that. Because we're just talking about like the minimums. We're making like the baseline player.
Yeah,
This is not someone who's throwing 500-foot forehands or like making up for it elsewhere. So you
right.
have to be like just this is just consistent across the board.
This is your Pro Tour starter kit player.
Yeah.
You start your disc golf 2025, your
Yeah.
PDGA 2025 game, and you get your baseline player. These are his stats.
Yes. Yes. This is the creating your my player, but you skip college and you go straight to the NBA
Yeah,
with the
yeah,
uh,
exactly.
automatic attributes. Yeah, I think it's got to be 80%. I mean, we could go crazy.
Yeah,
High 70s maybe, but I think probably
yeah.
you need over 80.
I think like when you get to around 75, you're having to put it in the circle more often.
Yeah. Yep.
I think that's just the truth of the matter.
Absolutely.
Um, and then circle two. This one's a little interesting because I feel
Yeah.
like circle two is kind of a scatter plot where some guys that are really good at circle one putting just aren't that good at circle two putting. And
I'd
there's some
go
guys
as much to
disgusting at
say
circle two.
I'd go to say as much as like the most disgusting circle two putters have trouble in circle one.
Nico Castro
Yeah.
is gross from circle two.
Yeah.
He's so gross.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you watch him take a minute to doink a 15 footer, and it's really sad.
Sometimes more than a minute. It's
I was
terrible.
being generous.
What's your take on this? What do you think's needed? Because let's
20.
perspective, the top players are the best players 34, 33 to 35 is like will win circle two putter of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think 20.
That's what I was thinking.
I,
High
I
20,
think,
high maybe 18 ish,
yeah.
like above there probably gets it
Yeah.
for you. Uh, yeah, I think that's pretty. That's probably the average. That might be
Probably.
tour average.
That's probably right middle of the pack.
Yeah,
So, I mean, maybe it's even lower. Maybe it's, like you said, 18, 15. I don't know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Very well could be. Okay, so 450 on the backhand, 380 on the forehand, 80%, 20%, and you can
Okay.
play on the pro tour.
How well do we think this person is doing on the Pro
This
Tour?
person is rarely cashing.
Yeah, they're a good day. They're hitting cash line. They're
Yeah,
flip card. Okay,
yeah, yeah,
that feels
probably.
about right then.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that's pretty usual. And then, yeah, I mean, if they have an extraordinary day, then
Yeah,
they'll play well. Like they could definitely finish top 20s at a couple
right.
events, but they're probably going to be averaging cash line or probably right around cash line for the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe in the cash.
So my thought with this was that we could kind of turn it into sort of a video challenge thing on Instagram, maybe, where I
Okay.
say you get like three chances to throw a backhand, three chances to throw forehand, see what your max distance is with it. Do you meet that category or not? And then I don't know what we do with the putting. Since they're even numbers, we could do just 10 putts.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
make 8 out of 10 from, I don't know, what's a good 25, 27,
I think 25 is probably fair.
25? Yeah,
Yeah.
if you go 8 for 10 on 25, and
Yep.
then
Eight
let's say,
8 meters, maybe 7.5 meters, something like
oh,
that.
there you go. Yeah.
Plus, yeah.
And then you go 2 for 10 from 45,
Yeah.
50.
Yeah. Probably 45 is
Okay.
fair. Yeah.
All right. So if you're watching, I want you to make a video. I want you to go, you get three chances for forehands and backhands. Got to hit 450 on your backhand, 380 on your forehand.
Yep.
And then for putting, you get 10 putts. One station is 25, the other station is 45. You go 8 for 10 on 25, and you got to go 2 for 10 from 45. If you hit all those, you are officially pro tour caliber in our minds.
Money. I think I'm
Yep.
gonna make up a little graphic. We're gonna start a little challenge.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
people can screenshot the graphic, put in the numbers that your average is. You're not gonna be able to trust anybody. Like there's gonna be some highly inflated numbers on there, I'd say.
Absolutely.
Um,
If
but yeah, I
if
think
you
that's
tell me
great.
that you throw 530 and you average 90% circle one and your PDGA says you're 890 rated, I'm gonna call BS.
Yeah,
Just so
yeah.
you
We
know.
will be. I'll be. Me and Mac will be calling out people directly on our Instagrams.
Yes, I will be posting you to my story for public shaming.
Sounds great to me. All right. I say we wrap up with a couple questions, couple listener questions, and then we'll get out of here. Sound good?
Perfect. Yep.
All right. Question one. Most solid fieldwork routine leading up to a tournament, not trying to make any big changes. So I assume this is for,
Hmm.
just trying to make sure everything's working right, not trying to figure out anything new, just getting nice and tuned up. What are you going with?
Yeah, I think I am working on accuracy. I'm not just going to go out to a field and rip.
Yeah,
I guess unless I'm playing the most open course in the world, which I have played tournaments at courses like that.
me too.
Um, but yeah, you definitely have being on tour.
Yeah,
But I would say bring a basket, a pole, or you can even just use your bag or something, and maybe surround your bag with or pole or whatever with discs or cones, anything you got. Make like a. I always do 25-foot radius because I feel like anything inside 25, I need to make that putt.
yeah. That I'd say the main thing for me, like tournament week, is you know obviously like don't want to be doing too much adjustment.
Yeah.
But I think tournament week, especially, and as you get closer to the actual tournament days, so like later in the week, I think just throwing your favorite shots and like
Okay.
just building up your confidence.
Yeah.
Like it's going to do you no good. Like if you suck at throwing Anheisers, it's going to do you no good to go out and throw a bunch of Anheisers, get pissed off, lose your confidence, and you know not be doing well going into the tournament. But if you're a stock, little Heiser flip thrower, just go to the field and just throw a bunch of those. Like not
Yeah.
try to do anything weird. Just throw your perfect stock shot over and over again and get your confidence through the roof. And I'd say kind of similar
Absolutely.
thing on the putting green is just putt a bunch of 18 footers. Like
Yeah.
just start
Yeah.
jamming 18 footers over and over again. And that's going to give you the confidence is the main thing that you're looking for tournament week. You're not going to
100%.
improve or fix anything or turn anything around. So just, build confidence in what you got.
Yeah. I fully agree with that. My I always say that whenever I'm practicing putting before a tournament rounds, I always finish with like 12 footers. I'll go up and just like do tap ins.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
it's not because I need to practice 12 footers, guys.
No.
It's because I want to watch myself make putts.
Yep.
And that be the last thing I see before I go start my round.
Yeah. I
And
do
the
that
same thing
before
goes,
tournament rounds.
yeah,
Like I'll I almost always finish my pre-tournament round practice with
yeah,
a 7 foot tap. Like I'm almost just dropping the
yeah,
disc in the basket.
exactly.
Gotta
Yeah,
finish strong.
I do that every tournament.
Yep.
And then I think the same thing applies for what you were saying with the field work is just go watch yourself put it inside the circle like 20 times in a row from 200 or 250.
Yeah.
And then you when you get a 200-foot shot, you're going to be like, "Well, I'm 20 for 20 on these," or
Yeah.
whatever your percentage is.
Yeah.
Like that y- it's really easy to underplay how important the mental aspect, especially like when we talk about confidence is.
The most
It's
important.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely the most
massive.
important thing for sure. Okay, question 2. How much does posture matter? Standing up straight slash tall versus leaning over more.
In general or in disc golf? Because really important for life.
Really important for life. I think we'll just say that goes without saying.
Yeah.
Let's talk about for backhand specifically.
Okay. Um, I think it is important in the sense of angle control. Now,
Okay.
there's a lot of people. I think it depends on your throwing style in terms of like if you think it's just in general important. There's a lot of
Yep.
people that are hunched over and they
Yeah.
do plenty fine.
Yeah.
For me, this is actually a specific swing thought I have whenever I'm trying to throw force overs or like those very slight, like flat to slight Annie shots.
Mhm.
My swing thought is stand up tall and puff your chest out. Right.
Yes,
So that like that natural postured, like proper posture position
for sure.
naturally puts me on that angle, doing everything else the same.
Yep.
So I think it's important for angle control. I don't know that it's necessarily super important for every shot. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I mean, I think for backhand especially, I think you could just by posture probably guess what someone likes as their stock angle.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, it mostly depends posture wise. Everyone has a little different arm swing, but I think, if someone's naturally, like you said, like puff chest out, shoulders back, like they're probably going to be throwing on more Anheuser most of the time. And it's definitely, I think that's the best way to control angle overall.
Hmm.
One thing I would say is no matter if you're throwing Heiser or Anheuser, I think like shoulder posture is really important because if you start getting like super hunched in shoulder wise, you all of a sudden are just creating no room to pull the disc through. And so I think
Yeah.
even if you are throwing Heiser, make sure that that's like a full body tilt, not
Right.
necessarily just like a shoulders leaned hunched over.
Yeah. Yeah, you do always want to be in that strong position, right? So
Yep.
like but the analogy I always use for the backhand form is imagine you're trying to elbow through a door or something to
Yep.
break it down. And think about doing that and now think about doing it with a sunken posture.
Yeah.
That's not how you would ever try and break a door down. So you
Never.
shouldn't be throwing a disc that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless it's like a wimpy little door, a
Yeah.
kids
A
play
f-
set
yeah, a
door.
Fisher Price door,
Yeah.
then you can be sunken chest. Yes.
Yes. Yes, exactly. That's great. Okay, last one, and then we're gonna hop off. Relative to your footwork, when is the proper time to turn your head and rotate your shoulders?
Ooh. To turn your head. I mean, you could argue that you don't really turn your head. You're kind of just keep your head locked in with your shoulders. Some people do turn it a little bit, some people don't. I actually used to have a really bad problem of forcing my head backwards
Yep.
and it would throw everything off.
Yeah.
Um, I say in general, I recommend just keeping that head keep your head attached to your shoulders, right? If your shoulders move, your head moves.
Yep.
And you've talked about looking at the gap for long amounts of time. That doesn't mean that you should be like staring at it like
No.
this.
No.
You still do need to turn your head with your shoulders. So I think the answer here is when is the proper time to turn your shoulders? And I'm of the mindset it doesn't really matter when you start as long as they're turned when you're planted. Right.
I completely disagree.
Interesting.
I think
Okay.
you can. I think you can totally turn your shoulders back too early. I think your shoulders should be parallel in line with the target
Mm-hmm.
until your X step hits the ground, and then everything should go back together. Because if you
Until
turn
your
your
X step hits
shoulders,
the ground.
yeah, so when your X step is on the ground,
So like your second to last step.
so yeah, so like for us, when our left foot hits the ground in our X step,
Okay,
you're
your
still
cross step.
here. Yes, and then you go back everything together. Because I think as soon as you start to turn back, and I just talked about this in a YouTube video that I put out today, but
Yeah.
everything in the throw wants to go back and forward in natural rhythm. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think if your shoulders turn back too early, they're going to naturally want to go through too early as well, because or else they're going to have to stall and wait for the arm to catch up or wait for the leg to plant, and that's going to throw everything off. So I think
Yeah.
your shoulders should be parallel when your X step hits the ground, and then everything should move together.
Yeah, so I do agree with you in general. The reason I said it the way I did is because there are people who are pretty successful, and they do turn their shoulders very early, but they kind of have a drag where
Yeah.
they get their shoulders turned and they drag it through the throw.
Yep.
And so even when they get to that last position where they're planted, their shoulders are still turned in that
For
same
sure.
position where they started too early. So I
Yeah.
think it actually, in my opinion, it matters less when it turns as long as you stay in the right position.
Fair. Fair. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
guess level dependent. I think most people can probably make it work
Yeah.
turning their
It
shoulders early. If you're trying to be super, super high level, then it's probably going to be a little bit harder. Obviously, still
right.
possible, but
Yeah.
a little bit
In
harder.
general, though, I do agree with you that if you turn your shoulders too early, you're more than likely going to have timing issues
Yeah,
and power generation issues. 100%.
for sure.
Um, but there are people where, for whatever reason, I don't get it. Doesn't make sense to me. It's more natural for them to kind of do that weird little like soul drag thing into it. Think
Yeah.
Chris Clemens is kind of like that.
Yep.
Nathan Queen's a little like that. Eric Oakley,
Yep.
guys that you know who they are. They're on tour. I
Yeah.
mean, they're not Paul Macbeth, but
No.
I think many disc golfers would trade their game for any of their games. So
Absolutely. I think probably almost all would be
yeah,
fine trading for sure. All right. Well, good stuff. Thanks everyone for tuning in to this episode 7 of the Form Lab podcast. Hopefully, we'll be
yeah,
back next week. We should be back next week. I know we missed a couple in a row.
I hope
So,
so.
as always, drop your questions down below. Look
Be
out
sure to
for
do the
our
challenge.
Instagram form challenge, or what are we calling
I
it?
don't know.
Instagram. Could you be a pro for Marrow challenge?
Yeah, throw like the pros challenge. I don't know.
We'll work on that. We'll work on that.
We'll
Look out for a
workshop it.
challenge.
Yeah.
Challenge will be coming up shortly. But thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
All right.